We are continuing our journey among boomer shooters with my next guest, Aaron, the developer responsible for the great looking game called Impaler. How are you?
Good, thank you for having me.
If somebody would like to argue that this is Fearfest and you have action shooters, not horror games, then I want to show them Impaler, because your game, yes, this is boomer shooter, this is shooter, this is action game, but it has some kind of horror style, dark atmosphere in it, and I'm curious, why did you decide to go in this direction?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so I think when I look at Impaler, it's not your traditional jump scare horror game. You know, it is a shooter after all, but I think one thing that shines through with Impaler is the environmental horror. You know, you're basically put in unrealistically large, dark room that actually kind of feels alive. As you play, you kind of notice it's not just a rectangular room with some columns in it, but monsters will spawn, obstacles will spawn. It actually has structure that's kind of like alive. And as you play, you basically feel like there's a director or some type of adversary that's against you, and the way he is getting at you is by like putting you through these trials, and he places you in this dark room and he's trying to basically punish the player. And that happens not just with spawning monsters and being dark and scary, you know, having fog and like these things that kind of make you uncomfortable, but the game will like actively do things to make it challenging for you. For example, like it may wall you in with obstacles. It doesn't feel like a static world, and it feels like there's someone against you that's not an actual like physical object in the world. And I think that kind of shines through as you play it. You know, it is one, you know, arena, you know, as you'd see in typical arena shooters, but it evolves as you play and gets more and more difficult. And you know, the hazards and, you know, the things you're up against, you know, outside of pure monsters, you know, it kind of expands as you play. And that's where a lot of the difficulty and the challenge comes from. If you enjoy, you know, boomer shooters, you know, games like Doom, Quake, Duke Nukem, I think you know, this could be a great addition to your library. I feel like I took the best of kind of all the different games. You know, it has the movement inspired by Quake. You can bunny hop, you can strafe jump, you know, that kind of like fluid, fast-paced movement that players are accustomed to. In terms of art style, it obviously has the, you know, the sprite-based monsters, you know, very colorful, much like Doom. Yeah, I made some different design choices than you'd find in other games. You know, I wrote my own engine, and I spent a lot of effort to make the feel correct. You know, some games you play just doesn't feel right when you move. You know, the physics don't feel right. So because the scope is small, you know, it is one arena shooter with one game mode, it let me put a lot of polish and effort and love into the game. So, you know, it is a small scope game, but I think it can really be enjoyable. And you know, it doesn't try to be something that's not an arena shooter. I think it's got good variety, and I think it holds its own against the, you know, the rest of the market.